Sakuta Azusagawa wakes up from a hazy dream and finds a journal which describes how, on the 6th of May, he met a senior from school wearing a bunny girl costume in the public library. Her name, however, has been erased from the journal. Mai Sakurajima, a teen celebrity, has gone to Fujisawa Library that day to test if people there could still see her. While on hiatus, she enters school, but it was midway through after the students have already formed their social circles. To maintain the status quo, no one has befriended her and her existence remains largely ignored. However, she has lately realized through experiments that aside from school, there were other areas where people have also become unable to acknowledge her existence. Those areas continue to grow and are becoming inconvenient. Believing that she has the adolescent syndrome, an urban legend about special powers that affected his sister in the past, Sakuta tries to help figure out what was happening to prevent her from disappearing completely. Ryo Futaba explains her understanding of adolescent syndrome using quantum mechanics and Schrodinger's cat. Sakuta continues discussing with Mai about her situation. Sakuta reveals she learned about Mai's conflict with her manager, also her mother, from reporter Fumika Nanjo, with the cost of offering a photo of his unusual chest scars. Mai immediately contacts Fumika, requesting the latter not publicize Sakuta's photo by offering her an exclusive interview about her decision to return to entertainment, but not through her mother. Mai then agrees to spend a day with Sakuta but denies it as an actual date. Before it begins, Sakuta gets involved in a misunderstanding with first-year Tomoe Koga over a lost child in which the two kick each other's buttocks, delaying his arrival with Mai. While they go out together, Mai makes an appointment to meet with her mother to inform the latter about her decision. However, Mai discovers that even her mother cannot see her or remember her. Sakuta then decides to bring Mai and travel further from the region to find out if there is anyone else who can see or remember her, but the attempt ends in vain. At night, they decide to rest in the same room at a hotel. When Mai is taking a bath, Sakuta contacts Yuma and Ryo and finds that at least they still remembered Mai. Sakuta and Mai sleep on the same bed and discuss whether Sakuta will eventually forget her too. Mai proposes to kiss with Sakuta, shown in the beginning of episode 1, but Sakuta chooses not to. The next morning, Sakuta reveals he had not slept all night. At school, he discovers his peers, including Yuma and Tomoe, the girl he had encountered before his date, have forgotten about Mai. Ryo proposes the school's atmosphere and sleeping cause the students to no longer remember her. Like Schrodinger's cat, her existence cannot be confirmed by those who refuse to acknowledge her. As such, Sakuta attempts to stay awake as midterm exams approach. While studying with Mai, she seduces him into sleeping with pills and bids him farewell. On exam day, Sakuta has forgotten about her until his memories return upon spotting a kanji they had studied together, prompting him to run outside his classroom. In front of the school, he confesses his love to her. Now recognizable to her classmates again, Mai announces the truth about Sakuta's syndrome. On June 27th, Sakuta proceeds through his day by eating lunch with Mai, who accepts his feelings for her, and encountering Tomoe being asked out by Mazewa, a member of the basketball club. However, June 27th begins to repeat, as Sakuta finds himself stuck in a time loop, which Ryo attributes to the phenomenon of Laplace's demon. To break out of the time loop, she suggests he try to find whoever is not behaving the same as the day repeats, leading him to Tomoe. While hiding in a desk, Tomoe explains her best friend had a crush on Mazewa, hence her reluctance. Sakuta and Tomoe eventually fall on top of each other, angering Maezawa and Mai when they spot the two. The loop eventually ends, but Mai does not show up to school the next day. Tomoe later proposes that she and Sakuta enter a fake relationship until the start of summer break. Sakuta agrees after seeing Tomoe's distress at the thought of her losing her friends and comparing this to how his sister, Kaede, felt when a similar occurrence happened to her. Mai surprisingly comes to his apartment and asks why he hadn't come to explain himself yet about Tomoe. Now pseudo-dating Sakuta, Tomoe's reputation begins to falter, as rumors circulate of her promiscuity. Nevertheless, the two go on dates. At the train station, Maezawa taunts the pair and instigates Sakuta into fighting him, though Sakuta ultimately defeats him. When they leave the scene, Sakuta assures Tomoe that they will remain friends upon ending their relationship. On July 18th, the day before summer break, Sakuta and Tomoe agree to discontinue their romantic relationship after a date on the beach. However, Sakuta is pulled into another time loop, which repeats July 18th multiple times. Unlike the first time loop, Tomoe is unaware of the cycle. Following a conversation with Ryo, he realizes Tomoe had been lying about her feelings. Instead of the beach, Sakuta takes her to Ioshima and confronts her, where she admits she had fallen in love with him, but he turns her down, telling her that he doesn't feel anything for her since he is in love with Mai. The following day, it is June 27th, as the events of episode 4 repeat, though with Mai kissing Sakuta on the cheek. While going home, the two encounter a middle schooler named Shoko Makinohara, shielding an abandoned cat from the rain, a doppelganger with the same name as another girl whom Sakuta had fallen in love with when he was younger. However, the oddity is that the Shoko whom Sakuta had met was older than this girl. She had been in high school during the time Sakuta was in middle school. Shoko begins to regularly visit Sakuta's house to take care of a stray kitten she found. During a trip to the library, Sakuta talks with Ryo about Shoko, when he notices she has her hair up and is without her glasses. After meeting up with Mai, the couple spot Ryo entering an internet cafe. When Sakuta tries to call her to find her in the building, he spots a second Ryo in the cafe. The latter goes home with him, where she suggests the duplication is a result of two personalities that move via quantum teleportation. During a conversation with Saki, Sakuta learns Ryo had been posting risque photos of herself on social media. Realizing the other Ryo was posting the images online, at the train station she receives a threatening message from an unknown user and asks Sakuta to go home with her. That night, Sakuta convinces Yuma to visit and the three play with fireworks on the beach before making plans to visit the fireworks festival. The next day, Ryo at Sakuta's house runs away, forcing him to search for her in the rain. He finds her at school but collapses from a cold. In the hospital, Sakuta reassures Ryo about being herself. She later calls herself and asks to go to the festival unifying them. The new school term has begun, though Sakuta, who has been barred from going on public dates with Mai due to her agency's policies, is unable to find her. Upon spotting her on the street, he discovers she has swapped bodies with Nodoka Toyohama, an idol and Mai's younger half-sister. As the two try to adjust to their new lives, Sakuta learns the siblings harbor a grudge toward each other because of expectations levied on them by the respective parents, with Nodoka especially resentful of having to live in her older sister's shadow. During a video shoot, Nodoka collapses as what is a typically routine act for Mai proves to be too overwhelming for her. Mai later gives Sakuta the key to her house and orders him not to open a certain cabinet. At Mai's house, Sakuta comments on Nodoka's effort, and while she is bathing, he approaches the cabinet. Sakuta finds a tin in the cabinet. When he returns home, Kaede greets him in her school uniform, while Mai gives him tickets to Nodoka's idol group's upcoming concert. Although Mai excels in the performance, Nodoka is distraught when she observes her mother praising Mai. At the beach, Nodoka attempts to run out to sea before Sakuta stops her and tells her that Mai indeed loves her. When she demands an explanation, Sakuta gives her the tin, revealing letters she wrote to Mai when they were younger. Mai explains she read them and kept them to motivate her through the stress of her work. She adds Nodoka's mother has worried for her happiness as she tries to live up to expectations, urging her to pursue her own goals. As they embrace, the two revert to their original selves. Ryo proposes the phenomenon is a variation of quantum teleportation, from Nodoka wanting to be like her older sister, and possibly Mai's jealousy for her. In an after-credits scene, Nodoka moves in with Mai following an argument with her mother, while Mai's relationship with Sakuta goes public. At a press conference, Mai elaborates on Sakuta's role in her life and influences her decision to return to acting. Inspired, Kaede decides to organize a list of goals that includes answering the phone, going outside, and going to school. Sakuta receives a letter from the Shoko of his past. With Sakuta's help, Kaede begins to achieve each of her goals, eventually going to the park and beach. While playing at the beach, she runs into Kotomi Kano, her childhood friend, yet she has no memories of her. Sakuta reveals that Kaede has lost her memories. Sakuta explains Kaede's condition to Mai and Nodoka. Due to the cyberbullying, Kaede started to experience dissociative amnesia. Worried about her, their mother suffered a mental breakdown and Sakuta received the scars on his chest. While reading a note in a book she had loaned to Kotomi, Kaede collapses as her past recollections slowly start to return, though at risk of forgetting her current life. The Azusagawa siblings try to go to Kaede's school, but the trauma returns when Kaede spots other students. Instead, the two visit a zoo in order to cheer her up before returning to the now empty school at night. With no one around, Kaede is comforted by the trip and proclaims she is ready to attend school again. The next morning, however, Kaede's old self has returned at the price of her recent memories. While visiting Kaede in the hospital, Sakuta breaks into tears and regrets his inability to save her previous life, causing his scars to reopen. An older Shoko whom he had met when he was younger treats his injuries. As he is bathing, she reads entries from Kaede's diaries that she had begun writing shortly after her initial memory loss. Expecting to regain her old memories and Sakuta to respond negatively, Kaede created her list of goals to provide him with happy recollections once she reverted to her past self. The next day, Sakuta spots a note left by Shoko before finding out both versions of her have disappeared entirely. Ryo suggests Shoko was an illusion created by Sakuta. Upon coming home, Mai reads the note and storms away, prompting Sakuta to follow her to her filming location. On an impromptu date, Mai apologizes for not being there to help him through his crisis, to which he answers he is simply happy to have her by his side. In a post-credits scene, Sakuta and Kaede pack their bags at the hospital when he thanks her, and she states her interest in going to school, knowing she is no longer alone. And that's the end of the video. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.